As the name suggests, competence management is around the competency of people. We need to clearly define the skills, knowledge, and behaviours required for asset management roles. It's also important that competency is different to experience and different to knowledge. It's the application of both of those to achieve an outcome. We need to be able to assess current workforce competence and identify any gaps. And that might be gaps today as well as gaps into the future as you start to consider against your strategic asset management plan what are the capabilities and competencies required. You want to look at providing training, education, career development, and other means by which we can close off the gaps in terms of competency. Competency may be seen under a compliance banner if you're working in a regulated environment, or really opportunity to improve, attract, and retain staff for the right reasons. We want to support individuals at all levels, from the boardroom all the way down through to frontline operations, but also ensuring that competency involves as organisational goals and technology changes, which will be reflected in your strategic asset management plan and your asset management objectives. There's always a risk that staff either do lack the knowledge and skills required, or they may feel they lack the skills and knowledge required. Skills gap and readiness is a real tricky topic because people may feel like the organisation isn't investing in them, but by the same token, there's a balance of how much the organisation can afford. You know, the old saying, well, do we run the risk that people we don't train stay, or we do train leave? But the idea here is if you carry out a training needs analysis first and foremost, you can actually quantifiably determine what the skills gaps are. Now, as you can see here, providing structured learning programs doesn't necessarily mean the cost of sending people to training. Some of that can be bought inside. You could do things like a day in the life of, a buddy system, internal training, existing material that's already out there on the internet. But really, the skills gap and the assessment around that is quite critical, because then you can co-design the learning programs with the workforce, and it brings them closer into the center of the organization, which helps both the organization and people, because at the end of the day, an organization is a system made up of people, and people are an asset in their own right. Contrary to the previous risk, we've now got the whole concept around being resistant to actually upskilling. It could be down to, I don't have time to do this in my current position, in my current workload. I fear if I am upskilled, I may be placed into a position of authority or greater responsibility that I might not be ready for, which really leads to that third element there, low confidence. What we need to do is very much provide the benefits to the individual and link that into the organisation in both directions. If we can provide coaching and actively listen to the individual, we can find out where their fears may be and how we can improve that transition. And of course, recognising achievements along the way. Upskilling should be seen as an improvement exercise, not as a response to a weakness in the organisation. There are competency frameworks throughout the world. Where I am in Australia, we have the Australian Qualification Framework. But just because it's a framework does not necessarily mean it's fit for purpose for my organisation today, or even fit for my purpose into the future. What we need to consider is the introduction of new technology, more focus on sustainability, regulation or legislation changes. We should feel empowered to challenge a given competency framework and expand it or contract it as needs be to make it fit for purpose for our organisation. So obviously around that, we can review and update frameworks regularly, but looking at the future focus of skills. But we can also do that balance with what skills do we wish to retain within the organisation, and which skills might we get from the market. Because there's an old saying, if you can outsource what you're good at, you keep control. If you're outsourcing/insourcing what you're not good at, or you're thin on the ground with, you may actually be introducing further risk. When we are designing our organisation, in particular when around competency and competency frameworks, we need to be mindful that as an organisation matures, it moves from being very much an individual or silo focused and more around accommodating the asset lifecycle, service lifecycle. And this is where we need to embrace the whole concept around cross-functional competence. Because the real risk here is if people are only skilled in the technical, but don't connect that to broader asset management understanding, we could be setting, and most likely are setting, the organisation backwards. So we need to promote that multidisciplinary training, how we collaborate those opportunities, but also mindful if you're in an environment subject to industrial relations, you need to be very clear with the employees, the workers and the unions, why a cross-functional isn't around saving money, it's about getting a greater outcome, and even those that are upskilled in a cross-functional sense will be more attractive to the market generally. Every organisation on earth faces the reality that people come and go. That may be due to retirement, natural attrition, staff turnover, the end of a project, whatever it might be. But we need to be mindful from a leadership perspective, a human resource perspective, of retention and knowledge loss. A way around this is to, again, coming back to that multidisciplinary training. What are those collaboration opportunities? I've worked in an organisation where when people entered the last couple of years of their retirement or towards their retirement, they would actually have more of a knowledge transfer. That was actually shot on old videos and played to people that they could learn how an old project ran, what the learnings were, but it also served very much onboarding. So retention and knowledge loss is a real thing. And if you look at retention of employees as an asset or value and knowledge as being an organizational asset, why would you want to lose it? Organizations tend to go straight for competency around the technical, making technical decisions. But I think it's been demonstrated over and over again that if a leader or a top management personnel can't make an informed or a rational decision, that can set the organization back a lot more than just a technical decision. We need to understand the different behaviours. Again, working over my years of seeing some leaders that will very much yell and show poor behaviours versus those that are more collaborative, listening, transformational. I know which one I'd rather serve into. So again, being mindful that we don't just look at the technical skills, we actually need to include the soft skills, leadership development, because that's what's going to stand the organisation up for success. Obviously, the alignment back to section 7.2 competency is an obvious one from a 55,001 perspective. But think of competency as training needs analysis, competency analysis, how does it underpin capability, and treat each individual plan, do, check, and act, because the knowledge and competency and skills they have is an organisational asset. So in summary, competency management makes sure that the right people with the right skills are in the right roles to deliver asset management effectively. And again, playing back, if you are going to adopt a competency framework, make sure and test that it is fit for purpose for your organisation, its context today, and even its context moving forward.